Welcome to the Further North podcast, your weekly dose of the North Melbourne Footy Club. My name is Josh and this is a fan-run podcast doing match previews, reviews and everything North. Let's get it started.
Look at to come in and go bang! Nathan Thompson gets the fist pumping and goes pops over that. We're heading to the finals.
Welcome back to the Further North podcast. We've got some North Melbourne podcast royalty on the podcast. I don't want to toot your own horn. We've got Marnie. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm great. Could be better after the weekend, but here we are.
Here we are. I don't know about North Melbourne podcast royalty. We'll run with it for the sake of
Well,
today.
you're a regular on hashtag kangaroos. You're on North Talk as well.
Yeah.
And here you are on mine.
Okay, if the shoe fits, we'll just go.
Well, there
we'll
you
go
go.
with it.
If someone claims you as royalty for this world, you have to take it.
I'll take
So
it.
you don't get to pick your own nickname.
Oh God.
There you go.
Okay. If I was to pick my own nickname it's the Queen of the Jasper Pittard fan club.
Jasper Pittard fan club or Hugh Greenwood fan club?
Oh.
If they're both standing in front of you, Hugh Greenwood and Jasper Pittard, and they're like, come with me. Which
Jasper.
direction?
It's Jasper every day. I only have one badge on my scarf and it's still the Jasper Pittard
Jasper
badge.
Pittard.
I can't believe I've managed to get on another podcast and talk about Jasper Pittard. I'm doing well.
No.
I'm doing so
There's a
well.
very regular theme if you've listened to Marty before on other podcasts about Jasper Pittard and Hugh Greenwood. I forgot the Jasper Pittard one, actually. I forgot that you're such a Pittard. It's been all Hugh for so long now.
Well, I mean, we're trying to stay relevant. So
Yeah, it's
we're
true.
on the Hugh bandwagon for now. But Jasper Pittard, always in my heart.
What is it
on my
about Jasper
scarf.
what is it?
It was because when he came across the North, no one rated him. And I was like, why would we have gone after him? This was the second time we went after him as well when he came across with Polak. And I thought, well, why would we have gone after him if he's really that bad?
Yeah, yeah.
So I got on board. And he didn't set the world on fire. And I've never
He was
claimed
all right, though.
that.
He was better than Pollock.
He was serviceable for the 18 months that he played before he was dropped in the middle of 2020. And
True.
that's
Sounds like
how
you're
the
not
love
over that
affair.
yet.
I'm not over it.
not over it.
I will never get over it. That's how the love affair started. And
All
we
right.
just we're here with it.
We're coming in way too hot
later.
for the start of this podcast.
We
I've
are.
opened up a whole box of emotions that I don't know.
It's going back in the box.
I did have a question before we close that box. One more question.
Okay.
If Hugh Greenwood leaves, who's
Yeah.
next? Who's next in the team? Who's your
I
stand?
don't want to taint some poor player. Let's just see how it goes.
Jack Marnie, isn't it?
Oh. Dan Howe.
Oh, stop it! No, we don't talk about.
We're
him
really closing this
around
box
these-
now.
Let's close that box. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Thank you for coming back after a fantastic performance on the weekend. As we know, North Melbourne going down to Port Adelaide in Hobart, which I went down to with the North Melbourne closer to a flag guys. Was it worth the flight and the price of admission? No.
I didn't think so.
Not really.
No.
But we did go down. I'm just going to look at the final score here if we want to relive that. Port Adelaide 135, North Melbourne 65, which compared to St Kilda game, much better. Much better. And the close to a flag guys did put out, I think if you combine the VFL and AFL scores, we win on aggregate.
Okay, I'm taking that.
Which I will absolutely
We'll take it and run
take.
with it, yeah.
And I'm not going to toot my own horn. Coleman Jones's 9 goals would have been fantastic in our
It would have
forward
been
line.
handy.
And I called it.
Even 2 or 3 of them would have been handy.
I called it last week. I'm not going to brag the whole podcast.
Look out, Clarko.
Look out.
Josh is coming for you.
No, if Brett Ratton, I don't know what he's doing at the club right now. If I can take Brett Ratton's seat up in the coach's box, even just give me on the match the match committee,
Selection committee, yeah.
selection committee, you'd have a contact in there by now, wouldn't you? You could.
I'll find one.
Yeah, you will.
I'll find one for you.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to get into it. We're going to start with team lineup. What did you think of the ins? Obviously, okay, I know what you thought of the ins. What did you think of the ins and outs? So in Hugh Greenwood, out Ben Cunnington and Lazaro. That's a good place to start. Ben Cunnington's omission. What did you think of that?
Yeah, look, obviously we all know I love Hugh Greenwood. I think he should be playing every week, but it hurts to have it at the expense of Cunnington. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat that. It's hard to watch his decline. I actually thought he was good against the Gold Coast, and then I thought he was good against the D's, but then under the roof at Marvel against St Kilda completely exposed. So he probably would have suited the game on Saturday.
I agree with that. That's what I thought too. I think, you've got, it's going to be an in and under game. You're out in the elements. I understand the Marvel thing where it's a faster track and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I agree. I think it was strange dropping him for that game. But
you know what? If he needed a rest, then fine, do it that week. Because then what happens if he's had a down game against St Kilda and then he backs it up with another poor performance against
it's true.
against Port? And that's not good for his personal,
Ben
self-belief.
Cunnington in general, do you think he should be in the team more weeks than not?
Yes, I do. Because I think when he's on, while we're never going to get the Cunnington that we once had, and we've kind of got to just accept that. I think a lot of people have, but I still think he adds a lot to the side that he should be in most weeks. But I'm also not opposed to resting him if he does need a rest to help keep his form where it needs to be.
No, that's true. I think I said last podcast that for me, Shields, Goldie, Zeeble and Cunnington should basically get their spot every week and just rotate kids around them. I think his leadership in the middle alone is enough to get him in this team, which is below par, obviously.
Yeah.
But we need someone in there to direct some traffic, but.
And and we'll talk about it later, I'm sure, but the Goldstein to Cunnington. I mean, that's a match made in heaven. And we missed it on the weekend, so.
Yeah, well, we finally could have had Cunnington, LDU and Simpkin in the middle.
Are we going to see them, the trio, together in the side before the end of the year?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, okay. I'll keep dreaming then. Dreaming of better days.
You give up your dreams. I mean that,
Advice
guys.
for the day, guys.
I
give
mean
up
that.
on your dreams.
Yeah, it's a safer space. And Charlie Lazaro, I mean, I wasn't too upset about him going out of the team. When they brought Lazaro and Jack Marnie into the team last week, I know that we're at a point now where you throw people in and we'll see if they've got anything. Those two for me just aren't going to do it. And Charlie Lazaro seems like the best bloke ever. He seems really nice. And I want him to do really well. And his VFL form was pretty good as well. But I don't know. When you look at a play and you're just like, they're just not it. We did with Kane Turner and Daniel Howe for a long period of time.
Yeah, pretty much every week until they were dropped.
Absolutely.
No, and I get that. And it's like riding that fine line between how long do you persist and then when do you pull the plug? Because there's quite a few guys, and Phoenix Spicer got his shot on the weekend and we'll eventually bring back Phillips and we'll eventually bring back Powell. And it's like how long, they don't have long to make an impression.
Yeah.
Especially when I feel like we're going to start seeing the rest of this year to be a bit of auditioning to stay on the list for next year.
I think it's got to be that way now.
Because this is not Clarko's list, and I'm sure he's hungry to get his hands stuck into it, but he's got to go through the whole list and see who makes it and who doesn't and who kind of survives for next year. Yeah. So you only really have one or two shots, realistically.
That's one thing that I'm already, and I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, I'm already excited for the off-season to see massive turnover. And I think I was saying to you before we started, I've realised in the last month that there is so much more. You know how when opposition fans were telling us that our list has no depth, we've got no talent?
Yeah.
And we're always defending it and going, no, we've got this guy and this guy.
We've got Kane Turner.
Yeah, it's too soon. It's too soon. He's probably going to be in next week too. We just need so much more turnover than I originally thought. And it's really come to show this year. And you're right, it's not Clarkson's list. I think we're all as a fan base realising that now. And it is going to take a little bit longer than maybe competing for finals in 2025 or something like that, I think.
And it hurts because there's been, pretty much the day in 2016 when Petrie and Boomer and them were announced they wouldn't be carrying on. We've been on pretty much a downhill slope.
Yes.
From then, we had a couple sugar hits. We had the sugar hit of Reece Shaw. We had the sugar hit of 2018 when we won, 10 games and we finished, 10th or whatever it was. And we kind of thought maybe things will be okay, but it was all just Band-Aids. It was Band-Aids over the issue. So now it's really raw and exposed, and it has been since the turn of COVID.
Yes.
So,
true.
True. How much, I think as a fan, you sit here and you think, how much further down are we going to go before it starts to come back up?
Hopefully not below the West Coast Eagles.
Oh, don't. At least we can field a team. We're one step ahead there.
Well, not after the weekend we can't.
Well, we'll see how we go.
Yeah. Is there anyone else you would have wanted to come into that team?
Well, like you, Coleman Jones. I thought he was a walk-up start.
Absolutely.
And I and it's no disrespect to Griffin Logue. I think Logue's been, you know, a fantastic
I really
recruit,
like Griffin Logue, yeah.
a recruit for us, and a really good addition to the side. But his best position is
In the back line.
defence.
Yep.
So, you know, and it's the same thing. It's like rather than play him out of position and let it's a hit to his confidence.
Yeah.
Just play him where he's at his strength and play Coleman Jones. And then Coleman Jones just gave us a big slap in the face by kicking 9 in the VFL.
Damn you, Coleman Jones. Should have kicked like 5 just to make us not feel as bad for not having him in the team. It's pretty selfish on his part, but
Yeah, but he had a point to prove.
he did, and
I'm
he
glad
did.
he proved it.
Imagine if he doesn't get selected next week.
Or imagine if he comes in and just, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about him not having an impact.
That's true. Yeah, oh, God.
Oh, no.
Okay, positivity.
Another can of worms
Positivity.
opened.
Eddie Ford. Did you think maybe Eddie Ford? He kicked 4? Was it 4? And
So-
Cooper Harvey kicked 4. He kicked 3 the week before in the VFL.
So in the week before, he had 12 touches and 3 goals in the opening quarter. I thought he definitely would have had a shot. Again, disappointed that he didn't. Whether, you know, we made 5 changes against St Kilda, so whether we just wanted to, you know, let those guys kind of feel each other out and just see how the flow of the team worked, and I think it did work. Better than it had the previous few weeks anyway. So maybe Clarko was like, not going to pull the trigger. I'll just make a couple of changes. And hindsight, you know, while I would have liked to see him play, probably not the worst thing in the world because now we've got 6 force changes this week.
It's true. What about Will Phillips?
I can't get my head around what's going on there.
Strange, isn't it?
It's a weird situation.
Because I don't think he was bad enough to get dropped.
No, but
And I understand going back to the VFL for form. And
but
surely,
how much longer can we do this for? I know he missed all of, you know, last year, and I get it.
But he had a whole preseason.
It's like
the preseason alone should get you ready for the season, in my opinion. Not that I've had an AFL preseason, but I wonder how long a carryover from something like that can be the cause of not performing.
And they've got to make the decision to commit. I remember in LDU's first few years, I was sitting here thinking this guy was taken with the top 5 pick, and what
Fourth,
do we do?
yeah.
You know, if he was pick number 4, we expected big things. Didn't have an impact straight away.
Yeah.
And you kind of start getting antsy, but we persisted, and now look where we are. You know, and it's like when do we pull the trigger to say, all right, we're committing to Phillips,
Yeah.
and we just let
Just
him
keep
play.
playing
Just
him.
keep playing.
What do you
him.
What do you think he will bring to the team when he's at full form? Like, he's very small.
But he's
and-
probably one of the most accurate kicks on the list.
Yeah.
I mean, some of his pinpoint passes, you know, you wouldn't
Yeah.
even see that from an LDU or
Three-quarters
a
of the team.
Simpkin. I'm so sorry to point them out specifically, but
Yeah.
for comparing midfielders, you know, in there. And he's really cool, calm, collected under pressure. His decision-making under pressure, he doesn't rush. These things you can't teach. And there's plenty of players in our team who need skills like that. And that's
true.
something we're crying out
I think that's the biggest
for.
thing we could have used in so many of these games, just a little bit of polish,
Yeah,
you know, a little bit of class.
absolutely.
I don't think there's anyone else really. I'm just looking through some of the players in the VFL, but there's not really anyone else I think that really could have come in. Obviously, we saw Phoenix Spicer come in. I don't think Phoenix Spicer will make it at AFL level, but I really want him to. Because a couple of times he did. There's one time we were watching him. I think it was his second touch of the game, and he's picked the ball up off half forward, ran around somebody, and tried to run into an open goal and hit the post.
He's exactly the kind of player that we need, but he's not the player.
He's not. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think if he was a bigger body, he's got the talent, and I think he's got the skill set to a degree, or what it should have the skill set.
Yeah.
He's so small.
It's the expectation versus reality. And
Yeah.
that's a problem that kind of flows with a lot of the players in the side at the moment for me.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, he's not much taller than me. And for those who haven't met, I'm about 5'3". So I'm short, right?
Yeah.
He's not much taller than me.
He's probably about 43 kilos
and
as well.
he's,
He's tiny.
he's just, and he looks like you could snap him in half, to be perfectly honest.
But a couple of times he was around the ball, he was exciting when he got it and he tried to do something. He didn't get executed well, but he's just got this burst of pace that no one else in the team does.
No, exactly. And like it's what we need and what we don't have, but he's not there yet.
Yeah. He probably needs to be another tier or two better quality a player with that skill set to be playing every week. But
And
at this point, I didn't mind seeing him in, and I wouldn't be against giving him a run of games because, I don't know, sometimes we just need a spark, like Zerha can spark and
you want
turn it
someone who
around.
wants to be there. That's the other issue that we've got at the moment, which I know we'll talk about
We'll get
later
there.
as well. He wants to perform and he wants to contribute week in, week out.
Yeah.
So it's that tricky balance of, how many of these guys are we just going to let them play?
Yes,
And
very
then-
true. Well, we're running out of options anyway because all of our players are
They're
injured.
all injured and a couple suspended.
Absolutely. Let's go through those really quickly then. I guess, do we do positives and negatives first? No, we'll do it now. So out of the game, Zerha, fractured jaw, I think it
Supposed to
was.
be only a couple weeks. Simkin said today in his presser that
He
he
did,
should
I did
only
see
miss
that.
1 or 2 weeks. So that's actually a lot kinder to us than I initially anticipated.
Yeah, one of the last players I would want to come out of this team though.
No, I agree with you for
LDU
sure.
hamstring.
The last player you want out of this
the
side.
last player. He played so well too.
He was excellent.
Yeah. Who else got injured? Oh, Marnie's shoulder exploded.
Flynn Perez,
Flynn
Darcy
Perez.
Tucker.
Oh yeah, Darcy Tucker.
That's actually really disappointing. I really rated Tucker since he's come into the side. Again, I think good decision making under
yeah,
pressure.
a bit of stability when he's got the ball. I don't think he's going to
Yeah.
do anything rash.
He's not going to set the world on fire, but he's also not going to go and do anything
He's
stupid.
just Sean Atley type, where it's like, you're not going to get a match-winning performance from him, but he's always going to be good and make a decent decision.
Interesting comparison to Sean Atley.
Well,
but
no, not the same player at all. That's
someone you can rely on
I
week in, week out.
loved Sean Atley.
More like
he
a
played
Sam
200
Gibson.
games.
Do you know?
Sam Gibson's a good one.
I'd go Sam Gibson. That's a
Look,
that's a kind of
That's
comparison.
a better
for
comparison
Das.
player-wise. My comparison was more about a guy that's in the team who has a 6 or 7 out of 10 every week and you can rely on, but he's not your best, he's not your worst, and all of a sudden he's got 200 games for the club and you're like,
How
Sean
did this
Atley,
happen?
well done.
How did we end up here?
But I loved Sean Atley. Oh, running down the wing with a bounce. So good.
We
Anyway,
didn't see it often enough.
clearly he's my Hugh Greenwood. So
That's all right. We've all got one of them.
we do all have one. Injuries, we're dropping like flies at the moment. Not too unhappy about if Marnie doesn't play. Flynn Perez, which we'll get to, was atrocious on the day. But I guess Zerha and LDU are probably the ones, and Tucker would be the ones that we'd want to be there. Aiden Core with the suspension
Well, I was
as well.
going to say, then you've got 5 injured players, and then the cherry on top is Aiden Core just doing Aiden Core things.
Now, with all due respect to Mr. Core, anyone who's listened to any of my podcasts before would know that I'm not Aiden Core's biggest fan. I've never really thought he was any good at all. Everyone keeps calling him a high-prized recruit in every bit of media I see, which makes me feel ill. The backline's just too tall and stagnant with McKay, Logue and Core down there, and I just don't think he fits in down there at all. I think he's the worst one-on-one defender I've ever seen. I just don't know what he brings. He had these little sparks, right, where it was against the Saints and he picked the ball off of half back and he like ran around somebody and hit someone on the chest. Like if there's one thing I like about him, I think he's actually one of the better kicks in our team.
Yeah.
But when like a key position defender is one of the better kicks in the team, there's an issue.
Yeah, and it's hard. I don't think the output justifies what we've given up in terms
No,
of salary and in
absolutely
terms
not.
of, whatever else. For me, I just think he's lazy. And I think that's an
Yeah.
issue that trickles down to other players. I don't think he's alone in that. I actually thought his best game was against St Kilda, and maybe that was because we removed Logue out of the equation, because obviously Logue's gone
Well,
forward
there's
to
3
cover
tolls
for
down
combat.
there's 2 slow.
Doesn't
isn't
work.
It? No.
Core and McKay both played their best game for the year last week when there was just the 2 of them.
Yes. Yep.
But for me, if I'm having 2 tall defenders, I go Logan McKay. I take
Absolutely,
Core out of
every
the.
day.
I go take Core out of the equation.
Absolutely.
For me, and I know Goat is injured. Lol, as half the rest of our
Yeah,
list.
so it's
But
half
for
our list.
me, Core being replaced by Goda, and then you've got
Yeah.
the combination of Goda and Bergman, and then you've got to support
Yeah.
Logan McKay. That makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Personally.
And Jack Zeeble plays like a bit of a key position player anyway. Obviously, his disposal is very clean and he sort of drives us out of the back line a lot. But he's there taking intercept marks all day. So when
Oh
you've got
God,
4
he's been
guys who are
excellent.
sort of there for intercept marking, and then you've got 2 blokes there who might have a little bit of run, it's just
It's
how are
just-
we getting that ball out
well,
of the
it's
back
not
line?
balanced.
No.
And that's the thing. If it, Bergman was so good on the weekend, and obviously she's
He
also
was.
been a revelation,
Absolutely.
down back as well. So, but that's not enough, clearly.
No.
So, yeah, for me, I'm interested to see how we work, how the backline now works.
Logan McKay. You think like
without
CCJ in for core and just obviously swap them positions around and put CCJ up forward with Larky.
Yeah, well that's the one thing we've got 6 force changes, but they're not all going to be doom and gloom because you've got the replacement for Logue up forward. You've also got the replacement for core down back.
Yeah.
That's 2 automatically that you can cover. So it's not, I don't think it's as bad as it looks, but there's a couple players in there that are just going to be hard to replace.
Yeah, we're going to miss a lot of, it's going to be a sloppy game. We're going to miss a lot of polish from like an LDU. I know Simpkins' disposal maybe isn't the best, but he's clean, picking the ball up and dancing around someone and whatnot. So we'll miss those players. Other than that, I think that's a fairly decent analysis of the of the 22 we put out and maybe some changes. Let's go to some positives and some negatives. Positives first to keep the energy up.
Of course, we love a bit of positivity around here.
Because we have to get through this with our mental health intact. Positive number 1 for me was the first and the third quarter. Now, obviously, 20-21 at quarter time. You missed the first quarter, which was probably the worst quarter.
I have watched it since.
Yeah.
I know I missed it on the day, but I watched it last night, so I'm up to speed now. And it was really good.
It was good.
A bit frustrating. Probably would have been a couple more goals in front.
Yeah.
But given
we competed with them.
Yeah, given how the game proceeded.
Yes, after that
first quarter, the first quarter I could watch it 4 times over.
Yes. Yep. The third quarter as well, I think gets sandwiched in, but obviously it's between the second and the fourth, which were atrocious. But the third quarter, I think we stuck with them pretty well, and I felt like the first maybe 10 minutes of that quarter, Port were really getting a run on, and I think we stemmed the flow of that, and we started getting more possessions and holding the ball a bit more, and I think Larky kicked a couple of his in the third. I think we stabilised a lot of what could have been more damage.
Yeah, so we stopped the bleeding a little bit.
Yeah. Then the fourth quarter came. And
there
was more blood.
We forgot that the third quarter even happened.
Yeah. Probably the highlight of the game, Zerha's shrug on Jason Horne-Francis.
So you were there.
Yeah.
Tell me how the crowd reacted to that.
It was actually very loud. There was one side, there was only about 6,500 down at this game, which probably says a little bit about Tasmanian footy, just from a point of like how many people are going to get to this ground. But also there was more people, or just the same amount of people protesting the new stadium down in Tassie as there was at the game.
We're opening another can of worms here.
If North were better though, it wouldn't be the case. I've been going down there for a few years and they used to get much bigger crowds, but that's where we are. No, the crowd did love it. I was standing on the hill at this point and we all were standing up and everyone was cheering that. There was a much bigger North support there than Port Adelaide. We sort of saw it and we're like, that was Horne-Francis, because Miles Bergman and Horne-Francis look exactly the same.
They do look very similar.
So we were just trying to find out, was that Miles Bergman or was that Horne-Francis? Then they showed a replay and the whole stadium went wild.
Incredible.
It was fantastic. And I've watched the replay so many times. And look, it was, like you said before we started recording, it was a very underwhelming sort of return for Horne-Francis where, look, he wasn't amazing on the day. He was fine. He contributed and he played his part. He didn't get 30 touches or anything, but it wasn't like there was spot fires everywhere and we were trying to beat him up like they were doing a Dacos, the Swans were doing a Dacos the week before. But yeah, what did you think of the shrug and what did you think of the Horne-Francis return?
I mean, we love the shrug, of course, and it was only ever going to be
fully dumped him.
It was
too.
only ever going to be Zerha, but I think, for me, I don't know. I thought it was underwhelming. But at the same time, who cares? Like, just let's just get on with it. And it's just so.
That's all we have to hold on to.
I know. You know what? And it's when I actually. While it was underwhelming for what it was built up to be, I'm actually really happy the way we went about it. We just kind of were
true.
You know what? You do you, we'll do us. He wasn't great. He kicked one goal. He had a few touches. He was
getting booed
damaging
relentlessly.
And you know what? If that's going to make people feel better, great. But it did not live up to any sort of spectacle I was hoping for.
I think at the ground, I don't know what it came across like on the TV, but at the ground, I think it came across a bit different to that, where the side of the ground that the interchange bench was on was fairly full of people.
A bit of
it was very hostile there.
Yeah.
Like there was very loud boos every time he touched the ball and every time he got interchanged. So I don't know if it came across differently on the TV, but I would say that it was fairly hostile from the crowd, but he ignored it very well.
Good on him. And you know what? He was always going to be a good player. No one's ever doubted that. Good luck to him. I wish him all the best. I just wish us better in the future.
Correct. Well, you heard it here first. We're going to win a premiership for Port Adelaide. I don't know how much I trust that, but I said
well,
it.
you just got to put it out to the universe and
It's
hope
true.
that it happens.
Footy gods, take that one, please. Larky 4 goals. You know about my bet with my coworker. Have you heard that on the podcast? I said
Just
it a few
remind
times.
me.
So I've got a bet with my coworker at the barbershop, Big Ant. He's a West Coast fan.
Okay.
And we've got a bet who's going to kick more goals this year, Oscar Allen or Nick Larky.
Okay.
Both in struggling sides, both clearly the number one forward on each team. It's pretty close. Oscar Allen kicked 2 on the weekend, but Larky kicked 4, so he's crawling it back a little bit. I think they'd nearly be even now. But I thought Larky was, geez, he's good at kicking straight, isn't he?
He is. You know, it's funny. I used to think that if I had to pick one former North Melbourne or one North Melbourne player to kick a goal to save my life, it was Aaron Edwards.
Aaron Edwards.
Right?
Not Ben
the
Brown.
Straightest. Aaron Edwards
Aaron
was the
Edwards
straightest
was-
shooter in the shed. I don't think I ever saw him miss.
No, I agreed. He
But
kicked like
Larky-
27-5 or something.
Larky
Yeah.
could give him a run for his money.
I
here.
agree.
And it's really, for me, he is someone who tries week in, week out. And
Yeah.
half the time he doesn't perform because of the delivery or the fact that he's constantly outnumbered by
To
a
do
flood
what he's
of
doing
defenders.
with that service, though, the guy could be 50+ year in, year out.
Yeah, if he was getting, if
Yeah,
one of the
someone could kick it
Dacos
to him.
brothers were hitting him lace out on the chest every week,
Well, put Sheasel on the wing, maybe.
a can of worms opened again.
Oh, wow. we need 7 Sheasels. But I thought Nick Larky was leading a lot more. And I think, as far as I remember, all of his goals that he kicked, at least 3 of them, he was sort of leading. They hit him on the chest and he went back and took his
And
set
that's
shot.
what we have to do.
That's what we have to do. And we've said this time and time again, and we all know it. Stop sending that footy into the 50 just as high and far
just
as
a
possible.
kick and hope. It doesn't
Yeah.
work. And Larky's not
Not a contested mark.
and he doesn't really bring it to ground well either.
No.
He either marks it or
He just
he's
gets
outmarked.
outmarked, yeah.
It's not really, that's sort of the only 2 options for me with Larky. So rather hit him, kick into space and let him run
Yeah.
into the lead.
And there was suggestion of if the forward line's smaller without having Comben in there and we didn't bring in CCJ, is that going to force us to lower our eyes and kick it to his chest? Well, no was the answer against St Kilda. But this game, I thought we were better. I thought the forward line worked better. That's another point I've got here, which we may as well touch on. The forward line worked better. I don't feel like goals fell in our lap. I feel like we created our goals and we were cleaner going into the forward line. It'd be nice if we could do all sections of the ground, can be good all in the same week. Last week, the back line was very good. This week, the forward line was
we will
better.
get there. We will get there. And I'm hoping it's in Melbourne so I can see it.
True.
But I do agree with you, and I think that a couple of the medium-sized forwards also stood up. And I know Paul Curtis was definitely
That's
his
another point
best
I've got here.
game.
Yep.
Definitely his best game for the year. I think Stevenson's been excellent
Yep.
under Clarko this year.
Absolutely.
Zerha obviously contributed as well. So I think there was a couple of missing pieces there we didn't have last week, and we didn't have. We haven't had since Comben's gone out of the side. So that was definitely really, really pleasing.
Yeah.
That performance for the whole forward line across the board.
We've got Miller Bergman, I've just put as a dot point here. He's
fan.
very good.
So good.
He's one, I think, from this year. I think the one that surprised me the most, maybe.
Yeah.
I
He's
think
the diamond in the rough
Yeah.
for me.
because obviously last year playing in round 1 and his shoulder exploded in the first quarter, I think it was. Out for a whole year, and he sort of came in. I don't know why he lost his spot. I guess he was sick, but he was out for 4 games.
Yeah, and hopefully now he sort of doesn't
Never
get
out
dropped
ever
again. Yeah, he can't be. I think he adds something.
He's very clean with the ball. And once again, it'd be nice to have him off halfback and on the wing and in the midfield.
Clone.
Just someone that can kick straight.
We'll clone him. That's it. Done.
Oh.
If anyone knows any
few
cloning
Sheasels,
services
yeah.
where we can pick up a few spare Sheasels
That's-
and Bergmans
yeah.
lying around, let us know.
A couple of Zerhas would be nice too. Zeeble and Goldie are great. Not were great, they just are great.
They are. Jack Zabel's going to win our best and fairest. I'm calling it right here, right now.
I love that and hate it at the same time.
I love it.
I love it. I love Jack Zeeble.
For 99% of the time when I think about it, I love it.
I agree. I would have liked an LDU or, a Sheasel or maybe Wardlaw came in at round 1 and was unbelievable, but a 32-year-old winning our best and fairest. I mean, he deserves it. He's been unbelievable. I love Jack Zeeble and always will. Build him a statue now. But,
He's a warrior.
That's not the guy we wanted to win it, though.
No, exactly. And I mean, it's hard because I think, there's the play the kids movement. And I don't disagree. And I think that the kids, we just touched on Bergman as an example, or Sheasel, they've added something to the side, no doubt. It's that youthful energy, but you still need
absolutely
your experienced heads to present an example of leadership and an example of effort week in, week out.
Yeah.
And Goldstein and Zeeble, they epitomise what Shinbona's spirit is, and they epitomise what the North Melbourne Football Club is. And if you want to play for this club, this is what you need to deliver week in, week out. So I think it's important that they still play. But yes, I agree. It would be nice if they were joined by, and I'm not saying LDU hasn't had a great year. He's obviously had a lot of injury troubles throughout the year.
When he's played, though, he's been great.
He's been excellent. So is Simpkin for most part,
I agree.
But yeah, they're definitely leading from the front of the two of them at the moment.
That's the next point then. LDU and Simpkin, we saw them both in the midfield at the same time, which is like a lunar eclipse at the moment, right? They were very, very good together. Now, especially first half. I think Simpkin dropped off in the second half, but his first half was fantastic. He was our best player at half time for me.
I agree with that.
Most touches, but, he gets the ball, he's able to step people and just create some time to make a decision. And if it's feeding a Bailey Scott or an LDU or someone going past, at least we're getting the ball. Are we ever going to see these guys play like 3 or more games together in a row?
Well, we're waiting a few more weeks after this. Obviously, LDU will be sidelined with a hamstring. But they both seem to have so much time and space.
Yeah.
And they're playmakers.
Yeah.
The one thing with LDU, and I don't want to criticize him because
we love you, LDU.
We love you, LDU. But sometimes just
never leave us.
Sometimes it's one too many fancy things for me.
I agree.
Like you probably
James
should.
Stevenson does that, and he did that a couple of times. And Steven's had a brilliant year, but he's sort of similar.
It's the same thing. I'd love just.
Paul Curtis is the same.
Just pull the trigger 2-3 seconds earlier. Before having to, you get caught or you pass it. You hand pass it to a teammate who's already under pressure, and it kind of all falls apart.
Absolutely.
But with that, everyone's got their downfalls.
None of us are perfect, guys.
We take the bad with the very, very good with LDU. But no, they were excellent, and I'm hoping that in the second half of the year we can kind of see them get a bit of a run on together because it's a great partnership.
Bailey Scott is my next point here. My last point for the positives, because we don't want to pretend there's too many of them. Bailey Scott, I thought he was fantastic. Now, I don't know if this came across as much on the TV as it did at the game. Even just where he was positioning himself, where he was around the contest to impact the play. He was always there to receive a handball. I think his efficiency was very good on the day, just from the eye test anyway. I thought that was a great game from him, and I actually think he's been pretty unfairly criticised so far this year.
It's the thing with, and this is the problem with a lot of the players, I think, currently who are, on the list or who are in the side. We know what their best is and we want to see continuous improvement. So for me, if you're comparing his season this year to last year, he has had a slower start to the year, but I do agree with you. I think he was excellent on the weekend.
I thought his first month was really good as well.
Our first month in general was very good.
Yeah. That's true. But that's actually a good point. It shows when we are playing better how everyone can click, and it must just be a mentality thing of we're down again. Let's not. And I don't think they're saying, I'm not going to try. I just think subliminally, like if your team's down that much, your motivation isn't as high.
Well, you think about last week, right? I mean, Cam Zurhaar kicked 5 behinds or, 5 behinds and a couple on the full, but and then that kind of fed into the rest of the team. It's no coincidence that we only scored 4 goals for the game.
Yeah.
Because everyone's confidence was down. It's a team mentality thing. So, but then then you think about it the other way. Well, then how many passengers do we have?
Well, that's actually a great segue onto the negatives.
All right, got you.
It's almost like you knew this going in. Negative. We have so many passengers.
Oh, there you go.
Curtis Taylor, Flynn Perez, Jack Marnie, and Aiden Core are the ones I'm going to name.
Just to name a few.
Just to name a few. Now, once again, I don't want to be rude to players, and I don't want to slaughter people week in and week out. Aiden Core, once again, I think he's had some good games this year, but for me, I've just got this thing with him. But I also don't want to be afraid of talking about players when they've been atrocious, right? Curtis Taylor on the weekend was an abomination. Couldn't even kick the ball straight. He has no confidence, dropping open marks.
He hasn't had a good year.
He hasn't had a good year, and I love the thought of Curtis Taylor. I thought he was good last year, and I thought when he was getting criticism earlier in the year, it wasn't warranted as well. I think, he popped up for a goal or so a week for the first month. He kicked a couple against Carlton, I think. Kicked one against Freo. I don't know. That was so bad.
It's hard.
It's one of the worst games from a player I think I've seen live.
Oh God, that's a big call.
I'm serious. I am legitimately serious. And if Curtis Taylor by some chance ever listens to it, Curtis, I want you to do
if you're listening.
Hi, Curtis. I want you to do so well. I really, really do. I think he's got so much talent. I think he can be very clean with the ball. He's a good set shot for goal, and I think he can be creative in that wing half forward role. But that game was awful.
And I think that's the frustrating thing about it is he is exactly the kind of player we need at the moment.
Yeah.
It's just what would it take to switch in his head to say, you've got this opportunity on a silver platter, take it with both hands and run with it. And I think that is the most frustrating part of all of it. He hasn't had a good year.
Yeah.
Saturday was, just to add to that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's like I kind of just want to shake you and be like, can you just make the most of what you
do what we know you can do.
Do you realise the opportunity you've got here? Take it and run with it. So, yeah.
I think that not Curtis Taylor individually, but like that sort of performance epitomises what I've definitely, and we've said this before, realised about our list this year, where it's just we thought we had more talent than we do, and a big clean out is going to be needed, and he's an example of a player that's been on the list for 3 or 4 years. I can't remember when he got drafted, but 3 or 4 years, say. We should be seeing more by now, and there's got to be an end to how many chances you give people so you can replace them with a better player. Like I said before with the Adelaide Crows, I watch these guys. I've never heard of them. I don't know any of their names, and they're all just solid footballers, and we don't have those guys.
I don't want to think that we've seen the ceiling of Curtis Taylor. I don't want to think we've seen the ceiling of half of these guys, but unfortunately, that's probably the reality of it.
It's the highs are high, but the lows are so low, and the lows are more frequent.
Yeah,
and that's it. You need to find the team in general needs a consistency base of you need to be maybe a 5 or up. At least break even and don't do more negative.
Yeah.
Speaking of negative, Flynn Perez. Now, obviously, did his Flynn Perez concussion? I think he got mildly concussed.
All the injuries have kind of blurred into one for me.
I think he did. He was also just no good. He had a shocker.
It's hard because the effort is there, but the talent
I understand what people think.
Doesn't.
Yeah, I understand what people think he could be, like that running half back. He's got a bit of dish, and I don't know, he seems to be able to dispose of the ball usually reasonably well. The guy was kicking it to poor players for fun on the weekend, dropping fumbling pickups off the ground, not being in the contest and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know. I don't see it. And I did say this a couple of weeks ago. I don't really see it with Flynn Perez.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen it with Flynn Perez. I don't really know what he brings and what he does. Would love him to be a Brownlow medalist one day. That'd be great.
Putting it out to the universe.
Not sure. And Marnie and Core are the last ones on this list. We don't need to go over Core anymore. But Jack Marnie, look, he played okay, but I think he's another one of these players on the list that if he plays okay, we go, oh, that wasn't bad, so play him again. Not, that was good, let's play him again.
And it's one of those things as well. It's like, okay, his game against St Kilda, I actually thought he played really well. And that's probably, I think, the best that I've seen him play.
I guess so. I don't remember any Jack Marnie. I think there's a couple of times where he
was on a couple nice marks.
Yeah.
But he's making the difference, on the wing or, closer to the defensive 50. We actually need him to be an electrifying small forward, which he's not. And he probably never will be.
No.
And I'm really sorry. But and this was an issue I had with Kane Turner. I'm so sick of bringing guys into the side who are defensive small forwards and they apply pressure.
They won't kick a goal.
But they're not kicking goals.
They won't kick any goals.
And that's what they're there for.
Paid to do.
It's ridiculous. That is just, and I think this is the big thing I've noticed with Comben being out of the side. I know we're kind of going on a bit of a tangent here, but
it's a safe space.
Comben The ball has been walked out of our defensive 50 the last 2 weeks in a row since Combin's gone down.
Yeah.
He also wasn't kicking goals.
No.
But he was creating
But
opportunities.
you could see it was coming.
It
as
was
well.
coming.
The effort was there.
And I criticised him because he wasn't kicking goals, but then he's not there and you think, shit.
Yeah, we need a
We
target.
actually really need him.
If only we had another tall forward that could kick goals on the list somewhere.
9 of them.
Nine of them would have been fantastic. You're not wrong.
So for me, if that's all Jack Marnie's going to do, there's plenty of other guys who can do what he did and more.
This is what I say about Kane Turner. We can find a player who can tackle and put pressure on but can also kick straight.
Yeah.
Like that's not a crazy thing to find.
It's
at
actually
AFL level.
really not a hard thing to find.
That should be like under 16s level stuff.
Yeah, well.
So anyway. We're going on. We're going to start ranting. All right, let's do these ones quicker. I thought McKay and Drury were very, very average. Now, I wouldn't be dropping any of them, unlike those other guys we just mentioned before. McKay had a shocker, and we've seen, which we'll get to soon, with some David King footage about his efforts on the weekend. He watching him live, he just didn't impact the contest. He wasn't jumping at the ball. He wasn't crashing packs. And I don't know the player's name, but number 31 or something. He got spun. That the footage that David King showed of Simpkin just with his back facing the contest, McKay's chasing him and he just gets turned. He played so well the week before as well.
That's the thing, and I really thought, okay, so maybe he didn't play well earlier in the year because the 3 tall defence thing just didn't work for him, so you pull Logue out of the equation, and then he and Core both played quite well against St Kilda. Just looked like his disinterested self from, a fortnight before. It's really, really, really disappointing.
It is. I'm not accusing Ben McKay of not being. I think it's easy to say he's halfway out the door, so he's just not trying. But it looks like that.
Yeah.
And of course, us fans are gonna think that. I'm not saying he's going. They're going. I'm leaving anyway, so I won't try. I don't think he's doing that. But as a fan, we're going to pick up on that, and that's what we're going to go to.
Well, you start to kind of put 2 and 2 together, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's, I think, again, it comes out, we know what you're capable of.
Yeah.
So where is it?
He can be elite.
Absolutely. And he was. He honestly looked like himself
last week. Yeah.
So it's like, what's changed in a week?
But was that because there wasn't 3 lumbering defenders back there and he had a bit more space to operate?
Port...
we're not coaches, I guess, so we don't know.
It's just you keep sitting here and I'm spiraling because I'm thinking Charlie Dixon didn't play.
Yes.
Georgiades didn't play. Marshall was subbed out from concussion. Pretty early.
Different play,
in the
but
game.
Rioli didn't play as well in that forward line.
So what's the excuse?
True. No, I absolutely agree.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, we'll see how he goes. Does he play on Buddy next week? I mean, I'd probably play Logue on Buddy because I think Logue's more athletic, as in from an agility perspective.
I don't want to think about that. Buddy's probably looking
13
to kick into form. So
13.
Oh God, PTSD.
I was there for that day too.
Oh, you poor thing.
Because I grew up in Launceston.
You poor thing.
Yeah, I'm still not over it. It was pouring with rain and I watched it from the boundary line. Blake Drury, absolutely anonymous in this game, but played well last week. Second game, he keeps his spot.
I think he showed enough against St Kilda that you give him another shot.
But absolutely anonymous that game, and the times he did get the ball, he coughed it up. Yeah. But we're going to give Blake another chance. Shout out to all the pale guys out there. There's nothing wrong with being pasty white guys. Blake Drury and me have that in common. Last week when I made the thumbnail and put Blake Drury on it, I had to turn down the contrast a little bit because his photo was so pale.
Casper the Ghost.
Yes, but us redheaded lads, we're
just
good.
take it in your stride.
We're good guys if we stay inside. All right. Port always had an out around the contest, and this is another thing I've been harping on about for weeks, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but around a contest, sort of on the backside, facing inwards into the centre of the ground. If Port won the ball, it's almost like they knew someone was behind them. They could just chain a couple of handballs together. There'd be 3 people running through the centre square and they'd get straight back into the corridor. Where are all our players? Where on the ground are 3 people that should be on those people? And I know we're trying to play more zone, but there has to be an element of accountability.
Yeah, and it's just sort of like it's frustrating because we went from after round 2, that was the end of the honeymoon.
Yeah.
At the end of round 2, we're sitting 9th in the competition for tackles.
Mm-hmm.
The pressure was up. We were up and about.
Yeah.
Fast forward to the end of round 9, we're sitting 17th. only Brisbane's below us, but Brisbane's just playing such strong attacking football that doesn't actually matter.
I wasn't upset. Maybe the amount, but the D's and the Lions loss just say they're premiership contenders. We're not even close. It doesn't matter.
And it's the thing is, you watched the St Kilda game last week. I'm just comparing it because it's like chalk and cheese.
They're also
right?
like a top 4 sort of team so far, even though they may be slowing. But
they're a team that could have easily beaten us by 10 goals.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we know the issues we had in front of goal. We actually matched them around the ground.
Both teams had issues in front of goal.
I didn't sit there. I didn't sit at that St Kilda game. I don't think they're the same, but I didn't sit there and not once did I think we're out of this game.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the start of the fourth quarter I realised we actually aren't generating enough entries and scoring opportunities to probably kick a winning score. And that was when I realised they're probably not going to win the game.
Yes,
but in terms of general play, the pressure was up. We really matched them around the ground. So then, you come across, fast forward, 6 days, and we again look like a completely different side.
Looks like it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very strange. And I guess I'm hoping, and we're all hoping, the inconsistency is an age thing instead of a talent thing.
Or an effort thing.
But I'm not sure. And we will not be sure.
We won't know until the end of the year and can properly look back on it.
I agree. All right, let's do more negatives. Fantastic. The back line allowed too many marks, especially for not, like we said, for not having their key forwards in. They mark the ball so many times, and we're failing to bring the ball to ground. I think, I guess not much more has to be said about that. I just am surprised that even Luke McDonald, when he's on people, and he's a player we'll talk about soon. So it doesn't even matter if someone's 7 foot or not. People seem to be marking the ball in our back line so easily.
Well, we love to play. A lot of our defenders like to come from behind.
Yeah.
Rather than, play in front or at least be competitive one-on-one, which is a bit of an issue we've got. And that probably resulted in a lot of marks to Port.
The next one is we completely dropped out of the game. Are we just young? And do you think it is because we're just young? Or like we said before, do you think it's an effort, an experience thing, a talent thing, or is it just a mixture of all of those?
I think it's a combination. I think the first thing for me, yes, we're young. Second of all, we've got this is our third coach or our fourth coach in 4 years.
It's true. I mean, Steve-O's had a lot of coaches.
Seriously, so it's how many game plans have you trying to churn through the side, and how much is sticking and how much is still resorting to what we've learnt previously.
Yeah.
Then I think it's also a bit of a synergy thing. I mean, we had 5 changes coming into the St Kilda game. You give these guys 2 games to play together.
Yeah.
And now we're sitting here looking at next week thinking we have another 6 changes.
True.
There's not a lot of consistency within the team.
It's very true.
And it's hard because then within that, there are players that probably don't deserve to get a game that should be dropped, but they can't
because we don't
left. Have the personnel.
Yeah.
So I think it's a combination of a lot of different things.
It's true.
I think the start of the year was the best and worst thing that happened to us, to be honest.
Yeah. If we played those games like not all in a row, and then was just spotting them, like if last week we sort of won a game, then a couple of weeks went by, we lost by a few, and then we won, and then we lost, it'd be different.
Yeah, because even against Carlton on Good Friday, we played so well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
If we kicked a bit straighter, we absolutely
if we didn't
could
have
have won
2
that
VFL
game.
quality defenders in our back line, if we had one of McKay or Logue, I think we could have arguably won that game.
And the fact that, that's what we faced.
Yeah.
And that's what we were able to do.
Exactly.
So I think that is the hardest part, is sitting here thinking, where is that week in, week out?
Consistency.
Exactly. Because if we brought that every week, you wouldn't be in a position we're in, or we're losing games, multiple games by 10, 12, 15 goals. You'd have more results like we did last week, or like we did against Carlton, and then you'd win a couple of games too along the way. It's just our best and our worst. It is such a big gap. It's like, where are we going to look to close the gap, and how are we going to close it? It looks almost impossible at the moment.
Yeah, I think we've all realised, and especially the last month, that it's going to take a lot longer to get to where we want to be. And I don't even necessarily think it needs to be a premiership at this point. I think it's just competing for finals and being a place where people want to come to and sign to. And one year maybe we do this crazy run, who knows? But look, premiership is always the ultimate goal, but I don't even think we should be suggesting that to be a thing in the next 5 years at all. I think, 2025, 26, if we're sort of pushing towards the 8, I think that's a more realistic timeline with what we've seen this year of how much turnover we may need on the list.
And now's the time to do it because when Tasmania comes into the competition,
True.
it makes many things, both on and off field, harder. It's going to be harder to recruit quality talent. It's going to be harder to lure in talented players from opposition sides. And I mean, with the exception of Griffin Logue,
Yeah.
what real quality talent are we attracting?
Yeah. Well,
You
the
know,
only thing we've got is
recruit,
Clarkson.
high prize recruit Aiden Core.
That's enough of that. That's triggered me. That's triggered me. No, look, I agree. It's
And it affects the supporters that we can attract and trying to grow a supporter base.
Everyone under the age of 15 follows Richmond. Everybody.
Oh,
I'm a
God.
barber. I have 100 conversations a week, and I'm honestly 50% of people I talk to follow Richmond.
You poor thing.
I know, and luckily we beat them every year. But that's just a generational thing because they had a player like Dustin Martin, and that's the sort of stuff that we really need to start thinking about as well, just for future. We don't have to be the biggest club in the league, and I don't believe that because North Melbourne's a smaller fan base, players won't sign there. Like I don't think that's a thing. I think we got Del Santo and we got Jared Waite and we got Higgins when we were up and about making those prelims, so we clearly can. I think any club in Melbourne can be that club, but yeah, for the future supporter base, we need to start getting some players on board. And Sheasel's already done that. The amount of kids that come into the barbershop and talk about Harry Sheasel, everyone knows Harry Sheasel.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of player we need. Hopefully Wardlaw's like that too.
I think he will be. I think Comben might be the same as well.
Yeah, I hope so.
No, I think so.
I hope so.
If he can get his body right, I think he definitely will. But there are so many things to think about that, we actually don't really have time to waste. It's kind of now, it's now or never. I think, and I don't want to put a doom and gloom, situation, but we kind of got one shot to do this.
Yeah. No, I kind of agree, especially after sort of those first 3 years of rebuilding. Not completely wasted because we've got Larkies and Zerhas and LDUs from it. But other than that, we've really gained nothing from those years.
Well, Clarko.
Well, from now, I say like Clarko from now on, yes, but I guess those Reece Shaw and David Noble years, there's not much.
The dark days. We're definitely not talking about that tonight.
No, I don't want to talk about that. The last negative point, and then we're going to go on to some big North Melbourne questions. We're going to put you in the hot seat and make you squirm a little bit, which would be good. We only had... Oh, no, I've just read the stat again. Apparently, the AFL app says we only had 5 centre clearances for the whole game, but the opposition ruckman only had 8 hitouts. So we dominated the hitouts and we got 5 centre clearances.
That's just actually insane.
Now, I love LDU and Simpkin, and I think they had decent games. And maybe let's not dive into this one too much, but that's just a disgusting stat.
Well, what more needs to be said? It's actually, you just sit there and think about it, and that's just terrible.
It's awful, isn't it?
That's
but look,
awful.
We'll chalk that off to a bad week because we've been decent in clearances all year. We are dropping like flies in the midfield though, so who knows? All right, that's all the positives and negatives. We should have started and ended with positives, shouldn't we? No, keep the spirit, guys. Please don't leave now. In 5, 6, 7, 8 years' time, when we're on in the MCG in the last day in September, you're going to wish you jumped on right now. All aboard the Clarko train to Premiership City.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. We're not going to do any viewer questions this week. We have too much to get to in the next segment, putting Marnie on the hot seat. But follow, Facebook is Further North Podcast, Instagram is Further North Pod, and I'll always ask for your questions, except for this week, because the special guest is too talented and we need her insight.
Really
right.
talking me off here.
Well, look, we got to get people to listen somehow in these hard times. This is what people come here for. All right. What we're going to do is I've got maybe 5 or 6 tough questions facing North Melbourne right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, hit me.
I want honest answers. I'll debate them with you as well, but some hard-hitting ones about where the club's at, all right? The first one, we'll talk about David King's segment on First Crack, right? Showing all of our players, not competing, not facing the contest and all that sort of stuff. Just give me your raw thoughts on how that made you feel and what you think about that.
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
Do you know what's more disappointing than it being disappointing is that I knew that was a problem, and I kind of am not surprised by it. I've already said to you earlier, I think Aiden calls lazy, and he was a culprit of that video.
Absolutely.
I really liked Jai Simpkins' press conference today.
I agree.
He acknowledged the video, and he was disappointed in himself.
Yeah.
That's only 50% though. Now
agree.
on Saturday, you step up.
Yeah.
And you lead the club and you do better and set a standard.
I agree.
Because for so long, there hasn't been a standard like that.
No, I
set.
know.
And only, now we're talking about our best players, our ex-captain, in his early 30s.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be him leading the
No, I
charge. It
agree.
should be a Simpkin. It should be a McDonald. It should be an LD. And I think LDU does do it better than the others.
Yeah.
But he even had his moments on the weekend.
Yeah.
They all have.
They've all had moments, but it's working cohesively as a group. And I guess you want your captain to always be switched on. I don't know if I buy in fully to the whole Jai Simpkin wasn't facing the pack, so people see like our team sees that and drops their heads. I don't fully buy into that, but that is part of leadership as well, and that over time may affect people. But as an isolated incident, I don't think Jai, should be absolutely slaughtered by anybody. But I think he's good at fronting the media today. To actually stand up, obviously before Indigenous round as well, and he has a big part to play in that. But I don't know, it's good to see him coming out and speaking about it and copying the criticism.
Taking a bit of responsibility.
But you're completely right where it's like, that's great you've taken responsibility and we've gone, well done, Jai, but next week you can't do that. Nobody on the team can.
No, and under Brad Scott, we would, if we'd have a thrashing, we would. One thing you could guarantee is you could respond every week after something like that.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to see. You think about the best teams in the competition. I'll use Melbourne as an example. They all play their role. There is not one demon week in, week out that doesn't play their role.
Yeah.
And they're unselfish. And I think that that's something that we miss.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think there's too many individual players in there and not enough team unity.
I think there could be some players in there as well that maybe are going, well, the club's not maybe going where I wanted it to, thinking about an exit the next year or so, and maybe trying to showcase their skills individually to maybe be better in the free agency period or a trade or something like that. I don't think there's heaps of those, but there's definitely players out there that, are going to be considering exits in the next few years and maybe trying to put themselves on a bit of a pedestal to show what they could do for another
And
team.
there are also probably a few players that see that the club's struggling and want to take it upon themselves to put us in a better position.
And that's we want that mentality, though.
Absolutely, but know
Maybe
when
don't have the
to do
skill.
the individual thing and know when to do the team thing
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
I think it was really disappointing vision. But it was worse that it didn't surprise me, and it was worse that it's almost something
True.
I expected.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part. So I loved Simpkins' response today.
Yeah.
But like I said to you, that's only 50%. He's now he's talked the talk, now walk the walk on Saturday.
It's different criticism as well, because David King saying that, and Simpkins said this, it's coming from a place of love for the club and wanting them to do well.
Absolutely.
Apart from maybe like a Kane Corns or a Caroline Wilson, who would slaughter us and say we're bad, and there'd be no real insight into that. And there's no constructive criticism, it's just negativity. So I'm glad it came from David King, because I think if it came from anyone else, maybe Simpkin, shouldn't bother acknowledging it.
No, exactly. And I think
Internally acknowledge it, but maybe not to the media.
Yeah, and I think for him to come out and address it is a really it's a step in the right direction, because it also says to the supporters that we care and we take it on board and we are going to look to fix it.
Yeah.
But Saturday is going to be the real telling tale.
True. All right, the next one, maybe the most controversial topic, Tarryn Thomas. We're going to talk about Tarryn Thomas.
Okay.
I don't really know the best question to ask here. There's two sides of it, right?
Yeah.
And we've heard, like, you've hashtag Kangaroos, you've said your thoughts on Tarryn Thomas and his situation at the club. I think we know now he's staying here. He's back in the VFL team, and he's going to be able to be selected maybe in the next 3 weeks or so for AFL. First question, how do you feel about that, which is now clearly the trajectory for him?
I don't have a problem with him going through this behavioural correction program and being ticked off by X, Y, and Z to play at or be available for AFL selection. That I don't have a problem with.
Yeah.
What I can't understand is we're sitting here 3 weeks ago and Todd Viney is coming out and saying he's nowhere near ready.
Yeah.
He hasn't taken any of this seriously. He hasn't taken any of it on board and he could not look further away from being ready to an AFL return. How it's going to look like it's going to be a 6 to 8 week turnaround from those comments to him being available for AFL selection. And I don't get how we've got here.
And I think the thing with that as well is if whatever's been set out for him is completed, I think most of us agree that if he's made those changes, that he's got the talent, he's someone we desperately need in this team, but he needs to tick the boxes, you know, as a person to be able to have that opportunity.
Totally.
Right? I guess the thing we don't know, and we're never going to know this, what has he had to do? And what has the club put in place? They've come out every week and say, we've put programs in place. Well, you know, I want to know what the programs are, but I don't know if I agree saying what the programs are or putting them out there in the media is a good idea. You know what I mean? So where do you find...
And who's ticking this off?
Yeah. Well, I assume Sonia, Jen Watt and Todd Viney would be the people.
Mate, why don't they call in someone external to also to monitor his progress?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like to legitimize the program that he's on. Because that's the thing. That is the thing for me. Yes, I believe in benefit of the doubt. And there are plenty of players we've seen in their careers who have done X, Y, Z, and they've had the benefit of the doubt and the support of the club, and they've come out of the side.
Yeah.
Jordan De Goey, as an example. Or maybe Dustin Martin even earlier in his career, right? Do I think Tarryn Thomas will be a player that either of the two of them are? Time will tell. I don't know.
He's got the talent to be able to.
He does. But that is the one sticking point for me is how have we had... Like, for me, the way that Todd Viney was speaking a few weeks ago made it seem like we would maybe not see him until next year.
I agree.
And I would not be disappointed with that.
Yeah.
Is this out of desperation at selection? Is this the need for a bit of a sugar hit and a need for a bit of a live wire and someone who has the ability to change the game off his own boot? Or is this because he's legitimately made progress and he's legitimately passed every hurdle they've asked of him? Yeah. That is what doesn't sit with me. And I don't think that's something we're ever going to know.
No, I don't think we're ever going to know that. And I think the reason it's weird because I don't know if I agree with this, but I feel excited to see him. And I don't know. I think that's just because we're so poor on the field. But, you know, then there's the ethical part of it where it's like he needs to tick those boxes. But if he is, and if he has, I'm happy for him because I think the other thing I talked about a few weeks ago was that it's almost beyond a him playing thing. This is a few weeks ago, like you said, when they were first saying this. And it was just after that video of him driving came out. It's beyond a football playing career thing now. And it's a young man, 22 years old, getting his life on track thing as well. And exiling him from the club was the worst thing they could have done, I think
No,
personally.
I agree with that.
You know, anyone at that age, I think we've got to remember, like, think about when any of us were 22 years old, like, I wouldn't have responded well to that and feeling like the family or the thing you've got and made for yourself, the opportunities you've created for yourself with your talent are just gone now. You know, depending on circumstance, everybody deserves other chances as long as nothing's too egregious. And I'm glad he's got those opportunities to be a better man and a better person and a better footballer.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's like the only thing maybe that makes me feel like I'm excited to see him. I kind of want him to play, but I think there's a part of it for me that's like I trust that Sonia and Jen, being women, are taking it as seriously as possible to tick those boxes for him. You know, I feel like if it was Todd Viney and two other guys, I feel like we'd have a lot more fears that maybe it's not.
It's a good point.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's why I feel okay or maybe trust what they're saying is true because I don't think, I'm sure with all their experiences in a very male-dominated industry, with all their experiences, I don't think they would let it slide and just tick the boxes just to get him back on the park. I'm trusting in that anyway.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I think the other thing is how long is the wait between being available for selection and actually playing? Because he's missed a chunk of football too. That's the other thing is that he's been out of action for most of the year. He only came back for his first game of the in the VFL over the weekend. He played really well.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing for me is how long are they going to wait between, okay, you're ready, you're eligible for selection now, and how long do they actually wait before they pull the trigger? Is it a last resort thing?
Yeah.
Or is it a let's get him in as soon as we can?
I think it's a bit of both. I really do. I mean, what would you, and just not as basic as a yes or no answer, and we know all things combined, do you feel better about bringing Tarryn Thomas in now with all that's going on, or a player that has barely played, even like a Cooper Harvey or even someone like a Charlie Lazaro? Like, just would you rather a Tarryn Thomas in or a Charlie Lazaro with all of the circumstances taken into account? It's a hard question.
It is a hard question, but you look at it's hard because on talent alone, you take Thomas.
Absolutely.
Because you look at Tarryn Thomas on talent.
Yeah.
Could play for the next 10 to
10,
12 years. Whereas have we seen the roof of Lazaro? I mean, we don't
exactly
know.
But that's kind of what I'm saying. Like at the moment, we need someone with the potential, and if it is going to be a rebuild, I guess putting it just talent wise, and I guess off field stuff aside for a second, putting him in the team it needs to happen now so we can learn the game plan and get some continuity with these guys. But like we know, the off field stuff apparently is being ticked, and I guess that's where my viewpoint on it comes from. Having Jen and Sonia there, I believe that they will make sure it's ethically okay for him to do that.
He wouldn't be available for selection at AFL level, and he won't be available for AFL selection if he doesn't tick those boxes. So that at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and argue with that.
Yeah.
But it's still at the back of my mind. I'm thinking, how have we gone from A to B so quickly?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we're not going to know,
It
and we're
seems
never
really
gonna
unclear.
know.
Which,
Yeah.
and I guess, so then at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, if the club says he's ready, you trust them and you pull the trigger when the time's right.
Yeah, because I think, Clarkson, Viney, Sonia and Jen, I trust they know what they're doing in all aspects of our club at the moment.
Absolutely.
So that's, I guess, what we've got no choice but to bank on. Last question on Tarryn Thomas. Does he play this week? For you, does he play this week?
I don't think he's going to be available for selection
I don't
this
either.
week.
I don't either.
Then no.
All the
on
media
that.
is swirling about it and trying to make stories about it, and I'm just kind of like, I don't think he'll play. I don't think he's ready yet. But 3 or 4 weeks down the line, when he's racking up 35 and kicking a couple every week in the VFL, then maybe you can actually make some articles about him getting selected. But I think the articles and all the swirling speculation on his selection right now is just for clicks, I think, right now.
I think so. I think realistically, I think we wait. I reckon he'll be available after the bye.
Yep.
Not long
that's
after
fair.
that. And I'm happy just to get some game time in the VFL, get some form together there, and then we can talk.
All right. That's enough Tarryn Thomas chat. Will Ben McKay leave?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm.
Do I blame him? Not really. I think he's only played in 8 wins in his career at North or something like.
I
I
think it was less. I think it was 5.
I know, it's less than 10.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's
yeah.
5 or less, and that's even worse.
That's awful. He missed the 2 at the start of the year too.
It's a shame.
Yeah,
it's a real shame because we know what he's capable of. But sitting here now,
Yeah,
he's had a really ordinary year so far. He's had 1 good game against St
I
Kilda.
know. He is coming back off the injury though. Like, okay, would you sign him if he wanted 750, 800,000
Yeah,
a year on a
I
5-year
think-
deal?
Yes, because
Yeah.
if he wanted to be there, you sign him.
I agree.
Because the way he played last week
Yeah.
is what you're going to get most of the time.
I don't think we've got the talent depth to have the luxury of not signing McKay as well.
No, but I think that he is a good player, and
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think he's an excellent defender.
Yeah, fantastic
His intercept
defender.
work is some of the best in the competition when he's
Yeah.
on, and I think you have to sign him based on that.
Yeah.
But I have no doubt he is at the very least exploring other options.
Well, why wouldn't you though? Like everyone
You'd be
would.
silly not to.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then the flip side of me, and I'm just going to keep playing devil's advocate.
That's fine.
is if I'm watching him say he's been linked to Carlton and Port Adelaide, so let's just use those as examples. If I'm sitting here as a Port supporter, I'm sitting here as a Carlton supporter, and I'm watching him, what he dished up on the weekend.
Yeah,
I
agree.
wouldn't be throwing the kitchen sink to bring him over because he's not going to come cheap because North will offer a high price tag.
Yeah, we've got the money to, and I think I don't fully understand the restricted and unrestricted free agent thing. I do in the NBA because I'm a big NBA fan, but it's different in the AFL. And I don't know if, like the NBA, because he's a restricted free agent, right? So, like the NBA, does that mean if someone offers him $800 a year, does that mean we can just match it?
I think so.
Because I think it might be as
You're asking the
well.
wrong person, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, look, if anyone's listening and knows exactly, please message the page and let me know. Or does that just mean we're entitled to compensation or more compensation? I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah,
because I heard someone talking about it, and yeah, I mean, the picks we could get for him, maybe there will be
top 5. There's rumors,
and the thing. Not that I think we'd get that because there's rumours always that we can get all this and then it's always half
we
of
always
what we
get
expect.
stitched up, to be honest.
We do.
Yeah.
Brady Rawlings, yeah, come on, mate. He didn't know. Brady Rawlings, I was actually this is such a tangent, whatever. I was such a non-believer in Brady Rawlings as our list manager for so long, but I think we did, now looking back on it, we did very, very well out of the Horne-Francis trade. What I've heard about this draft as well coming up is that there's so much key position depth.
Yeah.
And that is a big need of ours. We've got plenty of midfielders. If you get pick 1, you draft Harley Reid, and we know that.
Yeah.
But anything outside that, if a McKay does go and we get like a top 10 pick for him and can draft another key forward or defender, I'm also not super unhappy with that outcome. I'd rather McKay, but that's not a bad outcome to get out of it.
This could be a really controversial thing to say, but
Go for it.
Anyway, you tell me what you think.
Yeah.
If you look at our bookends, you look at Nick Larkey and then you look at McKay.
Yeah.
McKay's the one that's replaceable for me.
I agree.
And I mean,
and I don't feel good about it because McKay's fantastic.
And I would, my preference would be for him to stay.
Absolutely. But yeah, you're right.
I think that, and I don't have, what's wrong with looking for a mature age recruit?
I agree.
think this is something that we really need to explore as well, particularly with Todd Goldstein potentially retiring at the end of this year, or if he decides to go one more year. I mean, every year I say he could
give
go
him
again.
I'd be signing Goldie and Zeeble up now.
So
absolutely, I would. I would you? Of course.
Zeeble, yes. Goldstein, if he wanted to, yes.
You give him something to play back at ruck, or make him the ruck coach or something. Like keep him around the club whatsoever, because we said before he epitomises Shinbone.
100%. So for me, it's like key position players take longer to develop. So look at the VFL,
like a Podsy Adley or a Sam Gibson and those sort of guys.
Even Scott Thompson came from Geelong VFL.
Did he?
And Ben Brown came from Werribee. So there's players, and neither of them they were both in their early 20s when they came across.
Tom Stewart for the Cats was like that too, wasn't he? He was a mature age.
Liam Ryan was a mature age recruit.
Yeah.
So Tim Kelly. Yeah. There's plenty, and a mature age recruit, they're in their early 20s. They're hardly pulling out the Zimmer frame.
And the other thing I was gonna say before as well is Zeeble is he 31, 32? That's these days is not the decline of an AFL player for me. Like, I think a lot of sports, you go to mid-30s these days. Look what and I know Dangerfield's at all-time talent. You know what I mean?
Boomer Harvey would still be playing now if he hadn't been
if he could.
delisted.
That's true. But I don't know. I just don't think I think in every sport we still have this mindset of someone turns 30 and they're done. And I just don't believe it at all. In the 90s, absolutely, you're off a cliff.
Yeah.
But there's so much medicine, so much sports science. Picking up a guy who's 24 now, he could play for 10 years, even 8 years. That's still so much time. We could win a premiership with these players.
And look, with all said and done, would I prefer to keep McKay? Yes, of course I would. You want to keep your cattle there and you want to build something together. That was the really pleasing thing with Zerha re-signing at the end of last year. You know,
Bailey Scott too.
You also want to know that they believe in where we're going and what we're doing. So if McKay turns around and says, "Nah, I'm out," well, that you kind of
I agree.
It's worrying, sure, but at the same time, I don't think it's a doom and gloom situation.
No, I agree with you. I think Logue is better than Comben, right, in those positions. So if you lose Larkey, you've got Comben who hasn't – look, I love Charlie Comben, and he's starting to take marks. He was putting on heaps of forward pressure, and I think he'd be a great player.
Yeah.
But he hasn't shown it yet, right?
Yeah.
He was getting there, and I believed he was going to have a breakout game pretty soon.
Definitely.
But, Larky's a much more established player, and but our backup to McKay is Logue, and Logue I think is great.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Jeez. These are hard-hitting questions.
They
I'm
are.
getting stressed and I wrote them. This is wild. Simpkin and McDonald captaincy. How do you think that's going?
Okay. I
Yep.
think that Simpkins' press conference today was really impressive. And
That helped,
We
yep.
touched on that before.
Yep.
I like the co-captain thing. I never thought I would, and I never
Okay.
thought I'd be someone who'd be on board, but I like that it's McDonald and Simpkin. It was an internally led thing. You've got McDonald, who for me is the leader off field. He takes most of the press conferences. He's the morale guy at the club. You know,
Yeah.
he brings everyone together. He's the team spirit energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Simpkin, who I think, he sets the pace on field. He's had a
Yeah.
really good few years. He, alongside Luke McDonald, LDU, it works.
He's the natural choice for that role.
The hard thing is that we've had a hard start to the year on field.
Yes.
And for me, neither of them have stood up enough.
Yeah.
Maybe Simpkin today was the turning point,
Yeah.
but I don't think, while I like them as co-captains and in theory I really like it, I don't think either of them have been strong enough
yeah.
for me to sit here and say this is working for me right now.
I actually sort of have a different opinion with I don't like the co-captaincy at all. And I think it splits blame, and if one out of the two of them aren't performing, I think it reflects worse on our leadership. So like Luke McDonald's first month of the year I thought was really good. But I don't think he's been very good. I don't think he's been droppable. He's solid enough, and I wouldn't drop him at all. But I don't think you have to be named captain to be able to be a leader off the field. Like, do I think Zeeble is still the captain of this team game day? Yeah, I do. And I don't know if that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, he shows with his actions on field as well. And I kind of get the feeling that he's probably the one in the team talks as well saying things. I think Jai can be a fantastic captain. I think he was the right pick. And I think going forward, he'll get his game to a level where he can perform on the field and back it up with talk off the field. I think Jai Simpkin talks way better than Luke McDonald talks off the field. If Luke McDonald is organising team events and things, that's awesome, and that's stuff we absolutely need. But does that mean you should be captain of a footy club? I don't think so. And I love that he's a North guy through and through. And, at the start of the year, I liked the co-captaincy, and he was someone that, because he is a North Melbourne fan growing up, that's the sort of stuff we needed in our leadership. But a co-captain, I don't want it.
Do you think Simpkin's strong enough to be the sole captain of the football club?
I think he can be. I do.
But now, or he can be in a few years' time?
I think he can be now. I think if more pressure was on him, I think, like today showed, I think he can step up a little bit and cop the criticism.
Okay, that's it.
But I don't know if Luke McDonald can be that guy. I think Luke McDonald is that heart and soul guy, but I don't, if Luke McDonald talked today, I wouldn't have felt as good about it. I don't know why. I don't even know really why I can answer that, but that's how I feel about it.
It's just a gut feeling.
Yeah, I don't think Luke McDonald's performances haven't been up to scratch, and then him coming and talking about how we need to be better doesn't reflect well when the guy is saying we need to be better isn't performing. But Simpkin, I know a couple of his efforts were poor, and David King highlighted that, but generally I thought he had a really good game, and he's always in the middle and he's impacting games, and he can be a spark. And I think that's a guy that can lead the club. He talks better. I think he can show it on the field more. I don't know. I kind of just go with my gut and trying to explain it off the top of my head without thinking about it.
No,
You know
it
what I
makes
mean?
sense. It makes sense. For me, the one thing that worries me about Simpkin, and it's a weird. He's passionate, right?
Yeah.
He's really passionate.
He seems to me like he wants to be here as well.
But sometimes the way he shows passion is by ripping some guy's GPS off.
Yes.
Or being a little bit
He is
undisciplined.
24 though, and I think that's the other thing
So
as well.
maybe that's where McDonald comes in. He's a
Yeah,
slightly
it's
more
true.
mature level head.
It's
Now,
true.
I want to go back to Zeeble for a second.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I think Zeeble, Jack Zabel is I don't care what anyone says, is
You're
one of the best
statue.
captains that we've ever had.
I agree, absolutely.
To lead now people can think he's weak. Whatever people want to say about him. To lead the club through its darkest period and what he was
Absolutely.
able to do and come out of it on the other side, I think is remarkable.
Still after going through all that last 3 years and still backing into contests like we're in a prelim final
100%.
is wild. Yeah.
For me, him stepping down as captain was the best thing that he did for his career. I think he's just
Yeah,
playing
okay.
with a lot more freedom. He's playing with a lot more. He's just having fun with football, and I think he's really reaping in the rewards. The thing for me with Zabel is that he's playing, he's always going to take that leadership role. But he knows sometimes he walks a fine line. I'm comparing this to the undisciplined acts of Simpkin.
Yes. Yep.
Paul Curtis, and this is against St Kilda too, Paul Curtis was tunnelled
Yes.
taking a mark in the forward pocket or in the back, whenever it was, against St Kilda.
Yeah.
Jack Zabel was there. He went up to the St Kilda player and had a word with him, and then he walked away.
Yeah.
He knew he walked the fine line. He's standing up for his teammate, but then he's walking away and he's leaving it at a bit of lip, and that's it. And I think while maybe, an umpire could take that in the wrong way and they could overreact and they could say, oh, yeah, 50 metres, oh, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, that's the difference between the maturity and the experience that Zabel has, which Simpkin for me doesn't have yet. Now, would I have, for me, I thought that Simpkin would be the standalone captain.
Yes, I did too.
When the new captains were appointed. Would I have an issue with us sticking with co-captains for a couple of more years and then McDonald taking a back seat and Simpkin does it on his own?
Yeah.
No problem with that whatsoever. And 99% of the time I think I'm with you and I think Simpkin could be the guy. But then you look at what he's done with the GPS. He was suspended earlier in the year as well for something else silly that he's done. He still has a bit of learning to do, and I think that I just don't think he can really afford to do those sorts of things and kind of lose his temper and be, yes, he's frustrated the team's not playing well. Yes, he's passionate and he wants us to play well and win. Got to rather show that in your performance and in your leadership ability than doing something stupid.
It'll be interesting to see what he does for the rest of the year then, because I feel like that was maybe the biggest example of those brain fades maybe he has as a leader, acting rash instead of acting, like Zebul does and having a word. I think that was the time he was pointed out the most. I think the press conference today is a example of a turning point for him as well. And like I said, I didn't even, when I was just ranting before about why I don't like the co-captains, I really do believe that if McDonald got up and did that press conference today, I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
But because Simpkin did it, I do.
There's sincerity about it, you think?
I'm not seeing McDonald as that, because McDonald didn't play well. Like, if he's going there and underperforming and then he's the one that steps up and goes, oh, we're not good enough, blah, blah, blah. It just feels like they're saying, oh, glad we got the 4 points.
Yeah.
Or just played my role. Like all that generic stuff. But Simpkin, apart from those brain fade, like a couple of little brain fades, I think he played a very good game, and I think he's had a very good year when he's been playing. So him coming out and saying it, someone I feel like in my gut is going to be the leader of this club going forward. I don't know. I respect what he says more, and I don't know if I can explain it more than that. It's just a gut feel, but I just do.
No, and sometimes you have those gut feelings. I love Luke McDonald, and and he's been a North boy since the day he was born. You know what I mean? So for me, I think having him there for now and having them as co-captains at the moment, it works for me. Maybe it's not having the impact that we hoped it would, but time will tell. I mean, we could be sitting here in a couple of years' time and thinking, okay, now's the time that McDonald passes the baton and steps down. For me, that's how I see it working. Maybe and maybe all of this is overshadowed because of how Zabel's performed this year.
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
Both his on-field performance and then his ability
if
still
Zabel
to
was
lead.
maybe underperforming, we'd be like, Jai needs to captain this. But I think you're right.
Someone else needs to step up. But Zabel's still relishing in that role.
I agree. That's a good point.
So I think for now it's all kind of working. But if one of those pieces is taken out of the equation, say at the end of the year or, the start of next year or whatever it is, then maybe the conversation looks different.
Jeez, you've got good insight. Marnie. This is why we got you here. This is why this is why I talked you up at the start of the podcast. Deep
I try,
inside.
guys. I try.
Just keep doing what you're doing. All right. What is a successful season from here?
Okay. I don't know if I'm
Just go.
crazy. I want us to win 5 games.
Yeah.
For the year.
I agree with putting a number of games on it because we need. I know a lot of people are like, oh, we don't need the games. I think we do need to win games. We need to show these people that we can win games and why they keep putting in the effort. You can't just be like, oh, we won 2 games, but we played a lot better because it didn't matter because you didn't win the games.
No, and it's gonna mean we pull a couple rabbits out of the hat. We have
Standard
West Coast.
Richmond win every year.
We still have to play Richmond. We've got West Coast at Optus
I would be
Stadium
confident for
later in
Sydney
the
this week
year.
too if we didn't have as many injuries.
I was going to say that might not be the worst thing in the world. I think the injury thing maybe isn't so bad because there are players that we know can come back and fill some of the spots and some players that maybe should have already been in the side, Callum Coleman-Jones. So
who said that though? No, I mean, not me. I wasn't calling
take a
for
shot
that.
every time we've mentioned CCJ coming back into the side.
No, I mean, I said it. Clearly North don't listen to this podcast.
They should start.
Yeah, they should.
So I want, at the end of the day, I'm a fan. I have not seen a lot of wins over the past few years. None of us have, right?
It's hard.
Honourable losses don't mean anything for me.
No, I mean, look, there's only so much time that better performance against St Kilda, like that performance is gone now after we played on the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, I was impressed with what we showed against Carlton.
Yeah.
And yes, I was impressed with what we
That
showed
was
against
6
St
weeks ago.
Kilda.
Yeah.
But we lost both the games at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And losing games, whether you lose them by 1 point, whether you lose them by 30 points or whether you lose them by 10 goals, it's still a loss at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And do I think that we are seeing improvements week to week? Yes, I do, despite the fact that some games we're
agree.
losing by more than others.
I don't think they're all coming together in one go though. Like,
And I think when it clicks, I think when it clicks, we'll see a win.
Yes.
We have to.
We have to.
There's no
we
way
didn't
we
think
can't.
we were beating Richmond last year.
No, maybe we've got to sack another coach.
Well, I did say at the start of the year, I was like, we should just pretend to fire Clarkson for a week and then bring him back the week after.
Let Darren Crocker come in. Maybe Clarko has an illness.
Not Brett Ratton.
No.
Interesting. Give Josh Gibson the coaching role for a week.
Our record under Darren Crocker is superb.
Oh, God. I forgot
I'm
Darren
really
Crocker
clutching at
was
straws here, guys.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
But I think that we have to. Why can't we set that expectation of winning games?
Because it's a number that you work towards. You can't work towards a statement, can you?
And maybe I'm clinging on to the West Coast and the Fremantle wins, but we know that is somewhere deep down.
Yeah, we can clearly
find
do
it and bring it and win games.
Yeah, I mean, we play West Coast again. We play Hawthorn again. There's got to be one random win in there somewhere. I think that could get us to 5. I'd be happy with 5 to 6 wins. I think after the first few weeks, I was thinking more, but clearly that died pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you do have to put a number of wins to try and get to. If you don't get it, don't be all upset and, it's all doom and gloom.
No.
But you need to set an expectation as a
Aspire to
number
something.
to try and get there.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think you can't put an exact measurement on they need to be better. Because does that mean, what if they stop right now? I think we're better, but it is not good. So I think you're right.
Where's the proof that we're better?
Exactly. There's no results to prove that we're better. Like us watching the games, we know we're better than last year. Like they're clearly better than last year.
We're still losing by the same margin.
We're still losing games. So it's the only way that we're ever going to get respect as a football team is to start getting wins on the board.
Make some statements.
I agree. All right. Have I got any more? No. That is all the hard-hitting questions.
Wow. Building up a sweat here.
I know. I should open the window. Hard-hitting questions. I was, like I said, I'm stressed and I wrote those and I was still stressed answering them.
It's because we want the club to succeed.
It's true.
More than anything else. So I think,
want it so bad.
there's only so much that you can really sit here and cop week in, week out.
True. All right. We're going to go Sean Attlee Club Champ votes. For you, actually, I don't know if you listened to the first podcast or not. The Sean Attlee Club Champ is, I'll give the 3-2-1. It's like the podcast Brownlow.
Okay.
Right? But I gave it the Sean Attlee name because
Your favourite player.
we talked about Sean Attlee a little bit. I love Sean Attlee and I can't remember a 10 out of 10 Sean Attlee game, but I also can't remember anything under a 6. And
Serviceable.
I just think he was solid. He played his role and he's a guy that he epitomises just putting the work in and getting a result. You know, the guy played in finals, played 200 games, but I don't think anyone...
How he got there, we'll never know.
No,
but
by
don't
being
ask questions.
By being a solid player that would be very handy in this team right now. So, LDU got the 3 votes for me.
Yeah.
I think he was our best player, even though he went off with a hamstring injury, he was still able to be our best player. Stupid hamstring. Anyway, Nick Larkey got the 2 from me. I think 4 goals. He was leading much better and our players were hitting him, but he was converting still. 2 votes for him. And Bailey Scott gets the 1 vote. I thought he was very, very good. I think people are always... He seems to be creeping in as a bit of a scapegoat for people at the moment, but I'm a fan of Bailey Scott, and I don't really think he's had an awful game that he should have been dropped from.
No, I agree with that.
But yeah, I think he was really, really good, clean, always around the contest, and provided a tiny bit of polish when we had 0.
Okay.
So he gets the 1
There you
from
go,
me.
Bailey.
But Harry Sheezel's still leading this race almost by double.
Wow, unsurprising.
Sheezel's on 13 votes for the season. Larky's on 8. LDU 7. Steve-O Cunnington 5. Logue, Zeeble 4 and Zerha 3. Then there's scatters of 2s and 1s under there. But yeah, I mean, should we just give it to Sheezel now? He's probably our best player of the season. Could he win our best and fairest?
Yeah, I think it's between him and... I think it's between
Him
him
and
and
Zeeble.
Zeeble. I don't know, Zeeble's a bit...
One of our oldest and our youngest
I
player.
know, Zeeble's a bit far down on that list. What's going on?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think Zeeble got votes last week. I think Zeeble's played really well. The games he's stood out the most in has been the games that we've all played quite well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I also try not to just pick the typical best players. I try and who I thought was maybe, and that's why I think I gave Bailey Scott a vote, because I don't think everyone else will think he had a good game.
Okay, that's
But
fair.
I think he had a really good game, and it's this podcast list.
It's the
all
Sean
right?
Atley Club champ.
You know the name. People probably don't.
I do.
Thank you so much. That actually means a lot. That means a lot. Maybe we do. What else have we got in here? A quick round review, maybe, so we can pretend that one day our team will be good.
Let's do it.
Did you watch many other games?
I watched the Melbourne Hawthorn game, and I also watched the end of the Carlton Bulldogs game.
I did as well.
Oh,
All right. Well, Friday night we had Richmond and Geelong.
that was Richmond's grand final.
That was Richmond's grand final. I mean, I would have liked to see Richmond lose. Maybe they could have been fighting it out with us down for the wooden spoon.
I'm a big fan of the Cats too. I know that most people...
Really? See, I can't
See, a lot of
stand the
people are
Cats.
like you, whereas like nothing made me happier than watching Patrick Dangerfield win a premiership.
I like
last
Patrick
year. Dangerfield.
I think it's just I'm over them being good all the time, and just putting some no-name
not.
player. Oh well, go be a Cats fan then. No. But half of my friendship group are Geelong fans.
Okay.
And I don't know a fan base that gets so upset over very minor things when they're still very good.
Well, that's the privilege
here's the
of
story.
being really good.
I went on a date with a girl last year the same night that we beat Richmond, right?
Wowee.
Yeah. So because clearly I thought we were going to get belted, so I wasn't going to stay and watch it. I checked the score and I couldn't believe it. We'd won a game. I was so happy. And so
Oh my
she's like,
God.
I'll check the Cats score. She was a Cats fan.
Okay.
They played Carlton that night.
Yeah.
And they won by about 30 odd points.
Would have been disappointed it wasn't, 10 goals?
And she looks at the box score and she's looking at the stats and she goes, oh, it's just not good enough. And I'm thinking, what are you talking
I
about?
wish I had that luxury.
Your team's winning. And she goes, Blitzarv's got 4 turnovers, too many turnovers. And she was complaining about like one player's turnovers, even though they won by about 30 points.
I wish that was my life.
Yeah, how good would that be?
That would be great.
Our 15-year-old apprentice at the barbershop is a Cats fan. He came in after round 2 and goes, I've only seen like 7 losses in my life. This is so weird. And I'm thinking, oh my God, let's fire this guy. No, he's all right. And I was bantering one of my best mates, Nigel. Nigel, I love you for listening. And I was bantering him after they lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
And I went up to him, mate, what's the wooden spoon going to taste like? And he goes, oh, did we lose games? I don't watch till September anyway. So it's the confident. And look, my hatred to the Cats is out of respect.
Yeah.
Because they're so good.
They are so good.
Anyway, there's more games to talk about. West Coast, Gold Coast, Battle of the Coasts. Yuck, don't want to watch any of these teams play, but I'm glad the Gold Coast did them by 70.
big win for the Suns, and Eagles came out with more injuries. No, seriously though, I don't know how they're going to field a team.
No, it's wild. Well, they
This
did
week.
last year. They've got the waffle players. They can. Didn't they bring someone out of retirement again this year, like last year?
Oh, you're testing me here.
I don't know. Anyway, that's what I think. I
I
heard.
do know last year Declan Mountford played for West Coast against.
Oh my
against
God, I
North.
forgot.
Again, round 2 when we beat them by what, 15 points, and
Mountford.
Declan Mountford got the call up.
Oh my God!
There you
I've
go.
not
There's
heard.
a blast in the
It's like when I
blast.
heard Ryan. I didn't know Ryan Clark played for the
Plays
Swans.
Sydney, yeah.
I had absolutely no idea.
There you go, blast in the past.
Wowee. Geez, Matt Rowe's good at football, isn't he?
It must be all the grass that he's eating.
Yeah, I know. It's that vegan diet of his. Oh, he's so good. Anyway,
he is good.
yeah,
They're actually looking really good, the Suns.
yeah. I don't think they'll ever get there though. You know what I mean?
No, they won't.
They'll look good, and then the players will be like, "Well, I'll just go play in Melbourne."
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, the Gold Coast is an awful place to put a franchise of any sporting team. Apparently,
It's good for them for now, though.
I'm happy they're happy.
Pats on the back.
Well
Yeah.
done, guys. They make us look like we've got a big fan base too.
They
so that's
do, which
fantastic.
is that we keep them around for that reason.
Sydney and Fremantle. Fremantle getting a win.
Good game. Luke Jackson.
Yeah, Fremantle.
He's finally showing the fruits of
All of
paying them back.
Yeah. I mean, shipping all that big 2 meters of man over there, the shipping cost would have been high. So I'm glad, he's playing well.
He is playing well, and the Swans came out all guns blazing at the start. So Freo kind of pulled away, and then the Swans challenged, but Freo were too good in the end. It was a good win for them away from home. Don't know how I feel. I watched a lot of Fremantle living over in Perth, and I do have a soft spot for them. But weird year for them.
Yeah. Does this
of a-
mean that we're a better team than we think because we beat Fremantle and Fremantle just beat a team that was in the grand final last year?
But I'm taking it. I'll take
that.
anything I can get at this point.
And add Callum Coleman-Jones's 9 goals on and we would have belted them.
We would have.
Hawthorn, Melbourne. I mean, at one point it was looking devastating for the Hawks. The Hawks are better than us, aren't they? And I hate saying that.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because they really just have Box Hill running around in their side.
Yeah, but you can see this is what we need to start doing now is like they've got a core of players nobody knows who have no experience. And I don't think any of them are great, but they've all got a base of like a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, and it's that
They're competing too.
It's the unit. And they work really hard as a unit. But I think on the flip side, Melbourne's just so good.
They are very, very good. They're still my premiership tip. I said at the start of the year, and I'm sticking with it. Brisbane, Essendon. Essendon are falling.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks, Brad.
You don't hate to see that.
No.
Joe Danaher was excellent with his bag of 6.
Against his old team too. Yeah, Brad Scott. How'd you feel about Brad Scott going to Essendon when he went there?
I'm happy for him. I think coaching's in his DNA, and I actually think he's not a bad coach.
No, he got us to 2 prelims. I mean,
Yeah.
no one remembers it. Like,
I do.
Oh yeah, we do because that's what we've got to cling on to
Yeah.
in life.
No, but everyone remembers the elimination finals,
that's true.
and that's what really matters.
Sorry, Richmond and Geelong.
Not sorry.
Not sorry at all.
No.
I might go rewatch this game. One of those games after this. They put the Essendon North Melbourne 2014 finals game on
I've
KO.
seen that so many times. I can probably just commentate half of it.
Next podcast, a live commentary on the game.
Yeah, all right, done.
That actually wouldn't be a bad idea for an off season.
We can do some special comments.
All right, fantastic. You can
Done.
down the boundary line with Marnie. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
All right, done.
Carlton Western Bulldogs. The score flatters the Bulldogs. They ran away with it very, very late. It was a very, very close game up until the last 10 minutes of the fourth.
So I'm going to be annoying and say I like Carlton.
I
as
like
well.
Carlton too.
And I also cop a lot of unnecessary hate. I actually I got a soft spot for the Blues. I'm a big Charlie Curnow fan. Like I love
Yes.
Charlie Curnow.
No, I like Charlie Curnow too. I don't think I like the Blues, and if the Blues won the premiership, I'd be like, that's good. I'm
That's
happy
all right.
for them.
But they're not going to it. I don't even think they're going to play finals.
No, it's wild, and that will also make me happy in a weird way. It was funny at the Carlton North Melbourne game on Good Friday. We were sitting in Bay 29 with our cheer squad, and then when the Blues ran away with it in the third, all these fans in the next bay were starting to really rip into us. They were standing up saying, "You're a nothing club," blah, blah, blah. So one of the guys turns around and goes, "How's the 25-year-old rebuild still missing finals last year?" And you could see the hurt on their face. They stopped. You could just
Wow.
see last year's Collingwood game is still
broke
such a
them.
big wound, and it just broke them down from
100%.
all the banter. It was one of the best things I've ever seen.
You just have to give them a look and they know.
Yeah, they know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
win.
good on the
win
Bulldogs.
by the Dogs.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a person with a soft spot for Carlton. You won't hear too many people who like Geelong and have a soft spot for Carlton. So
It's true. You're a rare breed. The Blues are crazy, aren't they? Because I think if the Blues play finals and don't win one, I still think that's not good enough for them. They've got a Brownlow medalist and 2 Coleman medalists, even though one of them can't kick anything but a snap and still put it out of bounds in the full, even though I'd have him in our team in a second. I don't know. That's too much top-tier A-grade talent on a list with Jera and Sard and all these guys.
It's the mentality, though.
Yeah, but that's
you've
what
got
I think we've got too.
Well, you've got Brian Cook coming out. We're in a very different spot to where
I
Carlton
know we are, but mentality-wise, I think the Blues are still scarred from not making it all those years.
They've got a loser mentality, and I know it's awful to say, but you've got Brian, and I can't speak because I'm a North Melbourne supporter, but
Take this with a grain of salt, guys.
You've got Brian Cook coming out and saying, I don't think our supporters will be disappointed if we don't make finals. You've got
what are you
Chera, you've got
Lygon
Chera
Street will be
echoing
burnt
that.
to the ground.
I mean, what are you doing then? What? Grant Thomas said something last year that really stuck with me. He was talking about St Kilda, but I think it applies to Carlton too. You got some teams who are in the premiership business, and you got some teams who are just happy playing football.
Yes.
And to me, Carlton just look like a team that's happy playing football.
Yeah, no.
And if I was a Carlton supporter, I'd be filthy.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, look, I can only imagine in however many years' time, say we've got 3 like A-grade top-tier talents like that. They're even S-tier. They're above A-grade, right?
They've got so much talent.
Yeah, that it's just not clicking. But look, I'll be happy if they win, and I'll be happy if they lose as well.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
I mean, other teams...
We're not affected by it.
Yes, but if Carlton do bad, then they're not going to talk about us being bad as much, and that is easier to deal with.
I was kind of relying on St Kilda to be that team for us, and
well, they did get
pulled
belted
through on the weekend.
Yeah, they did lose by 52 points to the Adelaide Crows, who the Crows once again are the example I use all the time, where it's like I know 0 of their players, and
Ben Keys. There's one.
I haven't heard of him.
Tex Walker.
I know Tex Walker and Rory Sloane.
Darcy Fogarty.
No, I thought he played for Carlton.
No, Fog.
Is there another Fog?
Yeah,
How many Fogs?
Darcy Fogarty.
Double Fog.
The double
league's
Fog.
not ready. League's not
Riley
ready.
Philthorpe. Philthorpe. I can't
honestly don't
pronounce
know.
it.
I used to despise Adelaide as a club. As a kid, they were the club I hated the most. And it wasn't even Wayne Carey related. It was just, I thought Adelaide was a bit gross, and I thought their colours are yuck, and I still think they are.
I mean, that's fair. But for me, there's something in the water in South Australia at the moment. Because I
agree.
I think Port and the Crows are the 2 most underrated teams in the competition at the moment.
Maybe. But I think the ones we thought were good are good, and the ones we thought weren't aren't. So I don't know if that's because maybe from their performances, other than the lack of for teams around them. I think people rate Port pretty correctly. And
People just don't trust Port.
No, but you
think.
still I don't think you should until they play finals.
Yeah, that's true. Because they've had moments where they've started the year like this
Yeah. The Saints are the
previously
same.
and just fell over. St Kilda's honeymoon's over, which is, I love to see it personally.
Fantastic. Well, geez, hopefully no Saints fans are listening. Why would they?
No, seriously.
Collingwood GWS, last game of the round,
My
65
flag pick.
points for the Pies. Yeah, Pies D's would be a massive grand
They are the
final.
only 2 teams in the competition that I think, and maybe Brisbane, but I don't trust Brisbane either. But for me, Collingwood and the D's are the only 2 sides for me right now. I could say, yes, either
Cats?
of them could win. Well, they kind of had a bit of a hiccup on Friday night.
Yeah.
Geelong's always around the mark, but for me,
Yeah, it's true.
right now, we're coming sort of to
I
the
agree.
second half. We're about to hit the second half of the year. And premierships are not won in the middle of May, and I know that.
No.
But for me, it's Collingwood and Melbourne.
It's a toss-up for me between D's and Lions. I know where I think the Lions have this stigma of not being able to win in Melbourne, but they won in Melbourne and knocked the D's out last year. So I feel like, and
they've also added, like Josh
added-
Dunkley's made a huge difference.
and they've come to Melbourne and win this year as well. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that hoodoo is over for the Lions, and I don't really believe in those sort of things, maybe as much as other people. I think it's a factor, but a very, very minor one.
Yeah.
It's like my one where, we're playing down in Tassie this week. we've got an advantage. It's an oval with
That
sticks.
went out the window many years ago.
No, not North related, but you play at the SCG and it's a wider thing, so the Swans play it better. Just kick the ball a bit further towards the wing, like it's an oval.
If you're a
it's
good
sticks.
side, you're going to show up and win games.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it'd be a toss-up for me between D's and Lions for being the other one that might make the grand final besides Collingwood. But Collingwood are by far the best team in the league.
And they're so good to watch.
They are.
I love watching them play.
Well, the next Dacos is Harry Sheasel, so we'll be saying that about our team one day.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Please, Harry, save our
From
club.
your mouth to God's ears, Josh.
Absolutely. I'll have a word with him for you.
Thank
I'll have a word
you.
with him with all my insights. That's about it.
That's it.
That's it. This is a very long podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope people aren't sick of listening.
Well, I was going to
me.
say, if you're still listening to this, it doesn't really tell me how long this thing's been going for.
Long.
But it's got to be about an hour and a half, I reckon.
Okay, good chat.
I think it's been a fantastic chat, actually. I think we know Marnie's insights are 10 out of 10. And, if you need crunching sort of demonstrative energy, this is what happens.
With
You
a
come
little
in-
bit of Hugh Greenwood.
Well, and Jasper Pittard.
And Jasper Pittard, of course.
Jasper Pittard still plays for North Melbourne in our hearts.
In my heart, absolutely. He still comes to every game with me. So there you go. Oh, my scarf.
Oh, God. Hold on your scarf. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for listening through this whole episode. I think the hot questions are going to be good to listen back to. And maybe when I get other people on, I'll try and grill them too. But I can't see anyone handling them as well as you did.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Josh. It has
That's
been
all right.
an honour. And yeah, if you've made it to the end, well done to you.
How was your first experience on the Further North podcast? Obviously, we're doing it in person, which you said isn't a common event for you.
No, this is my first in-person pod.
Yep.
So it's been great. And hopefully everyone listening thinks so too. And
Yes.
they'll want me back again.
Well,
and you'll
we'll
want
see.
me back again too.
I'll let you know later. I'm 50-50 right now.
Oh,
it's such a
God.
long comment you made before, which is
Oh,
making me
no, I've shot
feel a
myself
bit
in the
uncomfortable.
foot.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. You couldn't answer the question, who's next after Jasper Pittard and Hugh Greenwood? Who's the next one of those? So maybe next time you're on, I'll get you to have a think. And next
Okay.
time you're on, I want you to answer. Once Greenwood goes, who's the next star boy?
He
for
might
you?
not even be here yet.
Harley Reid.
I don't want to put that sort of pressure on.
No, we're going to win more
I don't
games,
wanna-
guys. It's going to be fun.
I don't want to end Harley's career before
Oh,
it begins.
God. No, Harley, it's fine. You need to be here. Clarko will send you to the promised land. All right, that's enough. I need to go have a nap after all of that.
Yeah.
I think all in all, hard-hitting questions. We did positives and negatives. I still do think we're in the right direction. I just think it's going to take longer than we thought. And there's going to be so much more turnover than maybe I thought there would be as well. But overall, I am still positive about the direction we're in. Just going to take a bit longer than originally thought.
Just try and enjoy the ride and come to as many games as you can.
Yes. There's going to be more Bay 29 events in the future with the Close to a Flag guys as well. So I'll advertise all of that. Maybe we'll get Marnie down and she can lead the cheer squad for a few kangas.
I'll give that St Kilda TikTok girl a run for her money.
Yeah, true. I mean, you could be bigger and better than her.
Oh, God.
No,
Don't even.
she is good. I do like watching those
Don't
TikToks.
try me.
Nah, that's too. I'm putting way too much pressure on you, but I know you rise to the occasion. Thank you for listening, everybody. Further North Podcast on Facebook, Further North Pod on Instagram. We're always going to get your thoughts and feedback. I'm going to ask you one more question before we go. All time, who's your favourite North Melbourne player?
Brent Harvey.
Standard but fantastic choice.
And if I'm going to go left field, Lindsay Thomas.
Yeah, Lindsay was good.
He heart on sleeve.
Yeah, he was good.
I loved him with all my heart. But I think you can't be a North person and
No,
and not say
he was
Boomer.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Bags of 7 and 5 and kicking goals with no shoes on and stuff like that.
he did it all.
He was electric. Who's
Yeah.
your favourite obscure player that is just no one would remember?
Well, everyone remembers Jasper because I make sure they remember Jasper.
You know what? I'll give you Jasper Pittard. I have a weird place for Shannon Watt in my heart and Lee Harding. They're the two.
Lee Harding was a ripper.
Yeah, he was good.
Do you know who else I loved? And it was 90% for the comedy and 10%
Yeah.
for the skill.
Oh,
was
no.
Nathan Grimer.
Oh, Nathan Grimer.
That one goal he kicked against Essendon, his one career goal.
Oh, so good.
What a guy.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Hey, Essendon legend Nathan Grimer went back there for the
He
top-up
did
players as
too,
well.
didn't he?
Yes, actually, a funny story. We're rambling here. Turn off the podcast if you don't care about this. But I shouldn't say that to people, whatever.
Stay listening.
Yes,
listening.
yeah.
Important story.
Yeah, it is a good story. So, have you ever heard of that NBA guessing game, Podal?
No, but tell
So
me.
it's Podal is a game basically where you pick an NBA player and it tells you like what conference, what team they might play for, what conference, division, their height, their number, and you've got to work out from clues
Yeah.
who this player is.
So
You've
it's
got
like
8
Guess
guesses.
Who.
Yeah, basically Guess Who.
Yeah.
Right. There's an AFL version.
Oh,
So I did it at the barbershop
that's
when
so good.
Yeah, with one of my co-workers once, and there was a legends mode. So we were like, okay, we know maybe more legends than current players.
Yeah, okay.
Because I'm old now. So we did it and we couldn't guess this player. We're thinking, who is this guy? Bombers player, and it's legends, by the way.
Okay.
This is what AFL legends or
Okay.
AFL. Yeah. The player we got was James Kelly for the Bombers. Essendon.
Top-up player.
Yeah, a top-up player.
Whiz.
Not even Geelong James Kelly.
That's clutching at straws.
Because it said Essendon. I'm thinking, who is this guy? Midfielder, blah, blah, blah. James Kelly. The game, whoever runs that game, fix yourself. 'Cause
There's
that's not
your
good enough.
feedback if you run that game.
Exactly. I'm sure they're listening. Nathan Grimer, I probably would have guessed for Essendon because, his time there was glorious. But
He's always on your mind.
what was his nickname?
Nani?
Nani, that's it. Oh, sorry, I'm getting nostalgic.
I loved him.
He just seems like the best guy, doesn't he?
If you can find it, it was 2013. That was the year he kicked that goal. He was interviewed at the Sid Barker Medal.
Yeah.
See if you can find it on YouTube somewhere. It is the funniest interview you will ever watch, hands down.
That's awesome.
That's homework for this week.
Yeah. Unreal. Well, that's enough Nathan Grimer chat. What a way to end the podcast on Nathan Grimer chat. Thank you again, guys. Follow everything. If you leave me a 5-star review, I will read your comment on Apple. What's the other one? Spotify is the other one. You can comment what you think of the episode down below. I'll read your comments out. Thank you to everyone who's liked it and shared it around with their mates. I'm sure Marnie will be back. I can see she's had a great time and got through those questions okay. And who knows what we'll do in the future. So any parting words for the listeners, Marnie?
Thanks for having me.
That's all right.
I've said way more than I need to, so we'll leave it at that.
That is true. Thank you very much, guys, and we'll hear from you again soon. Thanks for listening to the Further North podcast. We'll be back next week with more great North chat. See you then, Bruce fans.